Today is October 4th. It's starting to feel those cool evenings, and people are starting to think about traveling, getting out of the country, and doing all of those really exciting things. So, in order to best prepare my clients and those viewers for crossing the border, especially those with any health issues or people who cross the border consistently. There's a product offered by Tugo that Aileen has volunteered to do a little bit of information for us today from Tugo. And I would just like to welcome Hélène Desjardins from Tugo Insurance. Welcome, Hélène Desjardins. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the product that we're going to be chatting about today?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Joshua. My name is Hélène Desjardins, and I am an account manager with Tugo. I started with Tugo 12 plus years ago now. I started on the customer service side of things, a little bit of focus on claims, and then moved over to this position in 2017.
Okay, awesome. So you not only help advisors like me, but you've seen what's going on the backside of things with the claims.
A little bit, yes, within
Yeah.
customer service, opening claims, servicing claims, not so much claims adjusting, things like that, but just more on the customer service side of things.
Okay. And people who aren't familiar with Tugo, Tugo used to be under the name Travel Underwriters, which is when I first read about you. And the reason a client actually introduced me to you was due to health issues with some seniors and having troubles with claims with other travel insurance companies and not wanting to be a party of those sorts of problems. Um, could you maybe just touch on briefly as far as how Tugo is a little bit different than the average travel insurance company in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, travel or Tugo is strictly a travel insurance company. That's all we do, and we aim to do it well. Tugo is also known for looking out for what we call our snowbird population. We offer things like low stability periods, protection on the medical health questionnaire, which is huge. I mean, some of those medical questionnaires out on the market are quite intimidating, and knowing that if you make a mistake, your claim could be denied. One of the things we do at Tugo is we have that protection that says if you make a mistake, if you miscalculate something by a date, you will not be financially ruined. What we would do instead of denying your claim, we would add an additional deductible to the claim, but still pay the remaining difference.
Right. No, that's phenomenal. So if someone say accidentally forgot that they were on a medication or they had been prescribed something that they hadn't taken, like those are things that can cause issues come claim time. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and what a lot of other carriers do is they'll use that medical questionnaire to determine eligibility. They'll use it to determine whether that pre-existing condition is covered or not. Whereas with Tugo, everything is kept separate. And so all our medical questionnaire does is it determines what you pay for your insurance. So, we're not putting you in a bronze gold category that then dictates your stability. It's just saying this is what you need to pay for your insurance. And if you made a mistake, it just means you didn't pay the appropriate premium. And we just apply that additional deductible.
Right. So what that would look like is maybe paying out the claim, but having to pay a higher premium that you should have maybe for your health question that you missed, or perhaps covering the claim, most of it, but not all of it, perhaps based on for what the premium you were charged. That sound pretty close to how things. So instead of just a no, it's an adjusted claim. Heaven forbid someone unintentionally forgot something.
Exactly. So, one thing that we're seeing a lot are those $1 million claims. They are becoming a lot more common. We've seen about a 14% increase in the average cost of a claim since the pandemic. And if,
Yeah.
for example, we had a $1 million claim, at the time of claim, we found out your medical questionnaire wasn't correct and you didn't pay the premium you were supposed to, we would apply that additional deductible. You pay the 15,000, we'll still pay the remaining 985,000 instead of
Yeah.
our competition may say, sorry, you made a mistake on your medical questionnaire. Here's your $1 million worth of medical bills back. Good luck, your claim is denied.
Yeah, and we won't name names, but I've spent over a decade researching this sort of thing, and Tugo is the so far the best one I've found for protecting seniors in my professional opinion. So today I just want to touch on briefly the 2 day U.S. travel insurance plan that Tugo offers. So my advisor, Cole's Notes version, is I can buy a 12-month policy where that allows me, without answering a medical questionnaire, to go to the United States for 48 hours at a time, come back, and heaven forbid there was a claim in the US, I'd be covered up to 5 million for an incident. And then that also covers me if I were to travel provincially for unlimited days versus the 2 days. So maybe you could just tag on to that and give us an idea of what that would cost for a 60-year-old, roughly maybe a 70-year-old to do something like that. And what is the upper limit of age that they cover? Is it 110, 120, 100?
Yeah, yeah. So you're pretty spot on there, Joshua. It is an annual plan, so 365 days of coverage that allows you to cross the border as many times as you like, up to 2 days each time. With that, like all of our annual plans, it also provides that unlimited travel within Canada. So a lot of us Canadians aren't aware that we have provincial healthcare and not a national healthcare, right? If we're
Yeah.
residents of Ontario, we cross the border into Manitoba, our OHIP coverages stop covering us to its full capacity. And so that's where having that emergency medical comes in handy, right? So
Yeah.
unlimited travel within Canada, and then at any point in time you can cross the border. Even if you're crossing the border through BC, your 2 days would reset upon re-entry into Canada.
Right.
And something that I learned is that approximately 90% of the Canadian population is within 100 kilometers of the US border.
Wow.
I know in your neck of the woods, you cross the river. Here we've got Niagara Falls. Christmas shopping is coming up, cheaper gas. Some
Yeah.
would say better coffee, all kinds of different little opportunities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've run into people who, from COPD to having a heart surgery, they don't believe they can ever cross the U.S. border again for fear of never passing that medical they did with usually another travel insurer. So I hope people out there who want to travel and are capable and can afford the policy, get out there and enjoy themselves. You only have one life, so I think it's important to really enjoy that one life that we have.
I
Now,
agree. I agree.
yeah, thank you. So I understand there was a huge claim. I think it was one of the largest in Canadian history to go through Tugo. And then there's also a smaller claim that was actually paid out on one of these 2 day travel policies. Maybe you could
Hmm.
just touch on that in kind of closing, and people can get an idea of why it's worth spending a hundred or maybe a couple $100 on some coverage, and what the potential claim could be. Like how high can these things go?
Hmm. Yeah, so there was a claim quite a few years back now. It was pre-pandemic. Someone fairly young, early 50s, was traveling down south, and the airplane needed to make an emergency landing in Las Vegas. It wasn't a pre-existing condition, but an underlying condition that was sort of
Okay.
aggravated by the elevation, the recirculated air, and it was a necrotizing pneumonia.
Wow.
So they had to make that emergency landing. He was in ICU for over 30 days. And those are
Wow.
always going to be the expensive claims, right? Where they're not fit to be brought back home. Sometimes you're not medically fit to travel back, whether it be to drive or to fly, and those
Yeah.
will be the expensive claims. The claim also unfortunately ended in a repatriation, which means that the traveler did pass in Las Vegas, and the total claim was $9.8 million.
Ouch. And I mean, I'm a certified financial planner. Been doing this for well over a decade. The average Canadian has less than $1,000 in savings, nowhere near 9.1 million.
A little bit
So
short.
a little bit short. And yeah, I know of personal situations where people have had a policy. One case was a heart attack on a cruise ship, and they needed either 165,000 cash now, which is quite impossible overseas. Even if you are wealthy, most of your money is non-liquid and tied up. It's not just sitting there available for you every day of the week. So anyway, that woman said, "What would have happened had we have not had the travel policy? He would have potentially passed away." Um, so now on the to-go travel side as well, I know we were chatting earlier, and there was a gentleman named Antonio. I think he just traveled like an hour or so across the border. Maybe you could just touch on what maybe a small claim would look like for, again, you're parting with maybe $100 to keep yourself safe. So what kind of protection did that $100 get in Antonio?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing we always do with our claims examples is we modify names just in the name of privacy. But one
Sure.
of the recent claim publications was Antonio. Antonio is a resident of BC who has a boat in a marina in Washington, about 25 minutes across the border from BC.
Yeah.
And while he was buffing his boat, I guess there was a little bit of a slip and it dismembered his finger. Now, we talked a little bit about how a lot of people would say when they're that close to the border, they would just drive themselves back to Canada and seek treatment there.
Yeah.
But he was actually air evacuated to Seattle. His finger was unfortunately not able to be reattached, and it was just about 58, almost $59,000 for this claim.
Wow. Yeah, and that is something I've heard people say. I think they're just having a thrifty moment, and they say, "Oh, I'll just drive back across." Um, I've never met anyone who planned on becoming disabled or knew they were going to get in an accident or get killed that day or whatever. So I think it goes without saying, we just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Um, and my recommendation always to seek out and research these things when you're feeling well, because it's a lot more work if you're not feeling well or the week before you go to travel, you have the flu. So it's always good to look at these things in advance when you're feeling well and when you're healthy and all that sort of stuff. So if it's stressful when you're in poor health, or sorry, when you're in good health, imagine how stressful that situation would be if you're in poor health. So yeah, I think that's a really great interview for us, and I hope we're going to have a few more and expand on To Go and some of the offerings that we have through there. I have the opportunity to offer many different travel insurance companies. So Tugo is the one that I prefer to use for pretty much anyone over age 55, basically due to the protection that I feel is offered through the claims process. Now, Tugo is a unique company in that you recently informed me was founded by a woman at a time when women weren't kicking butt. Like they had to kick butt secretly. So maybe in closing, you could just share with our audience like who founded Tugo and why that's so amazing in an age where female empowerment is finally coming to the surface and there's more equality. There's still not equal, not quite equal. My mom was a nurse, not quite equal as far as men and women in pay, but we're getting there. Um, Maybe you could just share with us the power of Tugo's management.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So Tugo's actually, we're celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. And with
nice.
that, we were able to get the whole team together out in BC, which was just fantastic. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Tugo is a family-owned Canadian-based company. And Georgina Robinson is the founder. So we've got Kathy Robinson currently as our CEO, who is Georgina's daughter. And what I recently learned is that Georgina was working with her husband so that she could do things like own a business secretly. You know, it was a time where women weren't even allowed to have credit cards. So for her to do what she did at that time, I thought was really exceptional. And Kathy now is kind of carrying that legacy.
Yeah, and I love that, and that's kind of the Canadian story. I think we all love. Like many of us were new immigrants or new from somewhere, and it was just grit, and hard work. So I love that story. It's not a story of knowing people, and it's a story of grit and hard work. So I think I know why I prefer to do business with Tuco. Um, so, Alen, that was a phenomenal interview. I appreciate you taking the time today to share with our audience. And did you have anything else that you wanted to say in closing? Because I think that was a phenomenal presentation and fact share.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you so much for having me. And if I was to just have one little footnote, it would be trip interruption.
Mm,
Probably another interview another day, but trip interruption is probably that next coverage that everyone should know and learn about. So to
yeah,
be continued.
yeah. To be continued. I'm post COVID. I am now sold on trip interruption, which is roughly about 10% of the cost of the trip. That's just my financial advisor mind how I look at it, and I now think that makes a lot of sense with the way the world is, and that was before some of the wars that it has sparked up. So with that, it even makes more
It, it's
sense.
it's the policy with the most benefits at the lowest premium.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you very much. And it is Friday, so I appreciate you joining me on a Friday. And we look forward to talking to you soon and covering some more topics to help Canadians.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Eileen.